Well, hey, thanks so much for checking out the Selah Leaders podcast. My name is Nick Newman, and I am here today with Darren, the Z-Man.
The Z-Man.
Zook.
I like that.
He's our podcast guide, and we're excited that you're here. Hey, thanks for taking a second to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It means the world to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, dude, I love that we're here. I hope people's summer is off to a good start.
Come on.
It is weird to think at this point that we're a month into the summer.
Well, I mean, on the day that this podcast episode drops,
Yes.
we are going to be in Idaho.
Yes, we are.
Catching great fish.
Yeah.
Because that's the promise of God over every disciple's life, right?
Yeah.
When he calls Peter, he says, I'll make you a fisher of men. But he doesn't say you don't get to go continue to catch fish.
That's
so
right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited. Go see Yellowstone. Go see some wildlife. It's going to be a great time. But man, I'm really excited to talk about today's episode because we're talking about navigating crisis seasons, and we have been through some crisis seasons in the course of the last few months.
Yeah.
Easter was really fun.
That's one way to describe it.
Yeah. We had our trailer stolen 3 days before Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Propel Church, it's the church that I pastor. Darren's part of our team there. We are portable at the moment, which means that we set up and tear down every single Sunday because we meet in a middle school, and we have 2 trailers, like 20-foot enclosed trailers that all of our gear is stored in. Everything. And a couple days before Easter, I got a text message from the pastor of a church where we had our trailers parked. And he sent me a photo, which was a photo of one of our church trucks crashed into one of their canopy awnings.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey man, I'm on the way. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how that happened. That truck should be hooked to a trailer. And so as I'm driving down the road, I'm texting him and I'm writing out, hey, the truck should be attached to a trailer, and his text says the trailer's gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there's nothing I can do to fix it right now.
Nope.
So I pulled into Cookout, I got a milkshake, and I proceeded to go to his office. And when I got to his office, walked in there, and I was super apologetic. I'm like, man, I'm so sorry about your awning. And he was like, our awning? Are you kidding me?
Your trailer's gone.
Your trailer was stolen.
Yeah.
To which I was kind of like, hey man, it is what it is. We watched some security footage, saw that a little after 4 a.m, some guys came through. They crawled under the truck, messed with the transmission, grinded off some things, pushed the truck down a hill, and drove off with our trailer.
And what's funny is, we park our trailers side by side. And so the trailer that they took was the much larger trailer. Very, very nice trailer, but, much larger trailer. And the other trailer gave them cover. But the trailer that they took was actually a trailer that logistically was much harder to go and find all of the things that were on it. So this was our guest experience team, our kids team. So everything that really our church sees from an experience perspective when they walk through the doors for the first time, everything from kids check-in to our new here tents.
A lot of pipe and drape. Yeah, so they stole it. And I think, truthfully, at this point, it doesn't shock me anymore. Right around that Christmas time, right around Easter. Yeah, for some reason, Satan's not really concerned about his birth, but he's really not thrilled about the death.
Yeah, he doesn't like the death and resurrection very much.
Yeah, because right around Easter, every single year, something happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking like, oh man, flat tire. Like, that is That's the reality of that season. And I thought I had already gotten some craziness that week, because on Monday I'm standing in somebody's house praying demons out of somebody, and on my ride home I hit a deer with my car.
You did,
and I made this social post that was like, one day I'll write stories of all the craziness that happens the week before Easter, and then the next day, our trailer got stolen. Yeah. And so what an awesome week.
Yeah. And I think what was so cool about it too, obviously everybody looks at a situation like that and just goes, well, that's not ideal. 3 days before Easter. So that was Wednesday and Easter was Sunday. But I think one of the things that was really cool was, watching our leadership of the church really rally. I mean, we got together that night and started mapping out, hey, what's all on that trailer? And, when we start trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to buy? What can we reach out to other churches and see if other churches have extra things of? And before you know it, we had churches reaching out left and right with, hey, we've got this. And it was really cool.
So I want to kind of dive into, for me, what is like the playbook for how to navigate crisis. Because if you're a leader, it's going to happen. Like there's not a way that you can avoid it. Yeah. So when crisis happens, what do you do? And I think the first thing, like as I stepped back, took a step back and watched, and just kind of rethought over everything that went on. And the reality is there were things that went on in the midst of all that that made the trailer seem like it was nothing. Yeah. But nobody knew about, all of that. But in navigating it, like me going to cookout, getting a milkshake, showing up at Pastor Earl's office, being very calm. The first thing that I think is really important when you go through crisis is to know that there's power in your predetermined responses.
So good.
So, like, if you know that crisis is going to happen, you should go ahead and plan on how you intend on responding. Yeah. At some point in leadership, bad things happening should stop catching you off guard. Sometimes I'm shocked at the magnitude of whatever is going on, but at the end of the day, I'm not surprised anymore. Right. Like, I know around that Easter season, it's about to go down. Yeah. And because of that, when I heard, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, people hate the Lord and they steal trailers from churches and this world's going, I didn't do any. It was like, well, of course that happened. Yeah. Yeah. And if I can't do anything to change the situation, why will I let that situation change me? Right. So there's power in predetermining your responses. There's power in knowing that crisis could and probably will happen. And when you do that and you know your predetermined responses, like, it's not going to catch you off guard as much. And you can go ahead and prepare your heart for the heartache. Yeah.
Man, I love that. And I tell people actually all the time, some of my team, like, hey, if you're going into a difficult conversation, have it already thought through in your mind how you're going to respond if things don't necessarily go the way you anticipate or otherwise. And so, predetermining your response, especially in these seasons of, crisis where the enemy is going to attack, I think is so huge.
Well, and then, as believers, one of our predetermined responses is that God is bigger than any of our situations. 100%. So is it ideal to have your trailer stolen a couple days before Easter? Nope. We kind of needed that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, God was bigger than any of it. Yeah. And what the promise is that He will turn everything the enemy intended for evil for good. Yep. That's Scripture. That's His word. But if you continue reading, what Paul is really saying there is the way that God turns everything that was intended for evil for good is that you become more conformed to the image of Christ. Right. So it's God. We think that what that means is God takes the uncomfortable and makes it comfortable. He doesn't. Right. It's rarely how God turns things that were evil for good. What God does and how he turns it for good is that he molds your character.
Yeah, so good.
That he shifts your heart posture. That he teaches you things to become more like Christ.
Yeah.
So that you would see that nothing the enemy threw at you is really like God can use all of it. So if you're in crisis, predetermine your responses beforehand. And then the next thing that you have to do when a crisis happens is you have to delete everything that's unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have had a fully developed, well thought out calendar and plan. You may know what your next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month looks like.
Yep.
When you're in crisis, your calendar means nothing.
Yeah.
So in the midst of our trailer getting gone, I walk into the office. I watch the security tape. I know the police are on their way. I am sending messages right now, or in that moment, I was sending messages to every person that I had a scheduled meeting with through the end of that week and said, hey, something's going on right now, and I have to reschedule with you.
Yeah.
Shoot me some available times for you 2 weeks from now.
Right.
And I went ahead and just I've shifted my whole calendar because I knew that to get ready for Sunday was going to require significantly more from me
Yep.
than what I was able to give to it if I didn't continue. And what I'm not trying to say is that you have to put life on hold.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But the reality is I had a bunch of lunches scheduled with people I was catching up with.
Yeah.
Or guys that I coach on a consistent basis. I was going to do Zoom calls with some future softwares that we may use.
Mm-hmm.
None of that is necessary to get me through the fact that my trailer got stolen. I lost half my church gear in a single moment. None of that stuff matters.
Right.
What really matters is making sure that my team is healthy,
Yep.
that I'm good, my wife is good, and that we can rally our church in this season.
Yeah, I love that. So predetermined responses and then deleting everything that's really unnecessary, removing all that and getting it all out of the way. What's your next practical?
Clear communication.
Come on.
And we talked about it a little in the last episode. What's funny is we answered that leader submitted question, and then I didn't remember that I was about to talk about this very specific thing. But when we talk about clear communication, it's really important because, like we talked about in the last episode, not every person needs all the information.
That's right.
And you don't have to respond to every person that's asking questions.
Yeah.
I made an initial post on social media from the parking lot shortly after because I had reached out to a few police officer friends in the area just to get information from them, and because I knew they were going to have to pull footage and stuff like that.
Right.
Well, before I knew it, we're in a small town, and I'm seeing stuff about it on social media.
Yeah.
And so I'm
that wasn't coming from us.
Wasn't coming from us. Pray for Propel Church. It was stolen, right? What does that mean? So I knew I had to respond.
Yeah.
So my post was, hey, I just want to let you know that this did happen. Mm-hmm. We are working with local law enforcement right now to get everything they need. We're doing an assessment of everything that was taken, and I'll give you an update soon.
Yeah.
As soon as I posted that, there's hundreds of comments, and you can go back and you can look even on social media. You can look on my Facebook page. You'll see comments from people that ask questions about the trailer.
Right.
Where was it stored? Who took it? Do they have camera footage?
What color was it? Yeah.
Do they have this? All of that stuff. I didn't engage with any of it because that's not the focal point of my communication right now.
Right.
I have other things to do. I can't get bogged down in that. So clear communication is identifying who needs to know what and then building communication levels as quickly as you can. And as you build those communication levels, it was for us I need to go high level and give all the information to my top level leaders.
Right.
So leadership pathway we've talked about is level 4 to 6. 4s and up got all the information we had.
Yep.
The next thing I did was I sent an email to our dream team, those who serve at Propel Church. They got a little less information than that. And then I sent a church-wide email, and those people got even less information. Right. It's not that we're trying to hide anything.
Not at all.
But not everybody can process all the information that's going on. And sometimes over-communication creates more questions than clarity. So as you're looking at building these comm levels, I think it's really important to build them and then figure out, like, hey, how are we going to communicate? Do we even need to communicate?
Right.
There's sometimes when you're going through crisis where you don't need to really talk about it quite yet because you don't have all the information of what's going on. So I think communication, making that really clear. And then we moved right into rallying teams.
This is my favorite part.
Yeah. I mean, to watch the teams come together were great. You mentioned, like, I sent a message to 4s and up that from the parking lot of where the trailer was stolen and said, hey, tonight we're going to be meeting. I'm not fully sure what this meeting is about quite yet, but we are going to be mapping out everything we need to be Sunday ready.
Yep.
I knew if I waited till the next day, we would be too far removed. I knew that what needed to happen is we needed to get it all out there, because the number one question, not that I'm going to get from people, but from other pastors and churches in our network is,
what can we do to help?
What do you need?
Yep.
And I would say the trailer that was stolen.
Yeah.
What was in that trailer?
Yeah.
And so, I think that when we had that meeting, we had a great time. We got some food. We talked about it. And when you rally a team, even in the midst of crisis, you know that culture's healthy based on how everybody responds.
Absolutely.
We were laughing. We were cutting up
that night.
Yeah. I mean, and because, again, it's a predetermined response.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit and sulk with you.
Right.
We're going to just keep pushing forward, and it's going to be okay. And then when you rally around crisis, this one, specifically for us, it was, hey, this doesn't deter our mission at all.
Yeah.
We came to see Mount Pleasant and the surrounding areas propelled into an authentic relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. I think we knew that night, hey, we're having Easter Sunday no matter what. Like, we don't need all of our stuff back to have an incredible Easter experience where people meet Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest parts about it was watching God work through his people. Yeah. We knew God was going to come through, but watching God work through the Big C church, watching God work through our team and everybody rallying in that time of crisis, I think was really, really cool.
Yeah. And so when you rally a team, I mean, double down on the mission, rally them around the mission and vision, and give very clear direction. So it was, in some of the direction for our team, it was, hey, there are going to be people that ask if they can, in our church, that ask if they can donate any, like, oh, I've got kids' toys at my house, and I've got this and that. All of that is going to be a distraction for us right now. If they want to partner, have them partner financially. Yep. That's going to be the easiest way that we streamline all of that. Because we had gear that was already coming in from other churches and things like that. And I didn't need to spend every day leading up to Easter just picking up gear.
Right.
I needed to spend my energy figuring out how to take all the gear and actually build the environments and make it work. And wildly, we did it.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
It looked different because it wasn't branded us.
Right.
But every environment that we had was there.
Yep.
Like God did some amazing stuff, and I think that's the power of rallying your team. And after you rally your team, run the play. Run the play. Whatever direction you've given them, just do that. Mm-hmm. And as you're doing it, watch for sideways energy.
Yeah.
So there were times during that week, I remember having a conversation with one of our ministry leaders during that week where they really wanted to talk to me about an event they were doing this summer. And I looked at them, and I wasn't trying to be rude, but I said, do you think a summer activity is the thing that's on my mind right now? And they went, yeah, that's fair. Not because it's not important.
Right.
But it doesn't matter in this moment. We're in crisis mode.
Yeah.
Like we've removed all the clutter, and sideways energy is something that distracts us from our current mission to divert energy to something not as important.
Right.
It's not that it's not important, but truthfully, I couldn't give a rip about that summer event in that moment, because I was trying to figure out if we could have church on Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff you'll have to watch for when you run the play in crisis. Is you've got enough on your plate without having to worry about a lot of sideways energy being created, because a ship rows well in one direction at a time.
Yeah.
So if you're rowing forward and they're rowing right, you are in a problem.
Right.
So let's row forward.
That's good. So good. So navigating seasons of crisis, I love all of these practicals. And I'm going to go through them one more time just to make sure everybody's got these down in their notes. So 1, the power of predetermined responses. Make sure you have that response predetermined. Next, delete everything unnecessary. Clear out that calendar. Make sure you're making time for what's a priority. After that, it's really all about clear communication, making sure that you have those levels of communication established and that you are being clear with all of that communication moving forward. Next, it's really rallying your team, getting your team, and in our case, it was getting the Big C Church, engaged and watching God really come through in that way. And finally, just running that play. Man, I absolutely love all of these practicals. Each episode, we do that leader submitted question.
Yeah.
If you'd like to submit your question, feel free to drop those in the comments on any of our episodes. We're watching for them. But I would also encourage you, send us an email, info@selahleaders.com. We'd love to get your leader submitted question. But today's, I actually have my own thought on this, but I want to hear yours. What is the best way for your team to support you in a season of crisis?
To not create more crisis. Yeah, I mean, that's the funny response, right? But I think it's very true.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I've seen is that when you're in crisis mode, there are people that you have on your team that are uncomfortable with the level of attention they're no longer getting in a moment.
Yeah.
And what they do is they end up doing something stupid so that they get your attention back. And that's just, it distracts.
Yeah.
And truthfully, your leader rarely responds well in those moments.
Yeah.
Because in their head, you're one of the people that should get it.
Yeah.
Like, you should be close enough to know this is not the time for that.
Right.
And so not doing that. But I also think that one of the greatest ways you can help is that you cover your leader's weaknesses, not exploit them.
Yeah, come on.
And the reality is, for me, I am a great starter. I'm a great motivator. I could rally people around just about anything. I have a really hard time executing. And so there were a lot of things in getting the ball across the finish line where years ago I would have been the guy driving to Winston-Salem.
Right.
I would have been the guy driving to Wilmington and to Virginia and to all those things. I can't be that guy.
Right.
That's not my gift set.
Right.
My gift set is jumping on the phone with 17 people, finding 12 that have stuff, and they can pull it in. And so covering my weakness is, well, hey, I've got the availability. I'll take care of that.
Yep.
Exploiting it is, oh, of course, he's not going to go.
Right.
That's a big difference.
It is.
And so I think that one of the greatest ways you help your leader in times of crisis is you cover their weaknesses, not exploit them.
That's good. And I'd actually like to take this one too, because I would just like to encourage all the second chair leaders that we have that watch the podcast. I would really encourage you in those moments, one, making sure that you're covering your leader, but two, really making sure that you're also running interference to a large degree.
Yeah.
I think one of the things you've done well is you've placed leaders around you who know where you excel, and they know how to cover you, but they also know, hey, he doesn't need to worry about that right now. So there were a lot of things that we would run logistics on during the course of, those couple of days, just because it wasn't something that needed to be brought to you.
Yeah.
And so my biggest encouragement for second chair leaders is make sure that you're not only covering, but also running interference for your leader, making sure that you're taking care of all of the little things so that it's not something that they have to think about, as they get further into the weekend in our situation.
Well, because at the end of the day, your leader is still a person.
Right.
But crisis makes us feel like we don't have the luxury of being a real person.
Yeah.
We have to be a robot so that we can get everybody else through this. And so it's a huge blessing to have people come alongside of you in those moments, because a lot of times, especially in crisis, you feel like, I don't get to deal with my own junk right now.
Right.
I've actually got to make sure everybody else gets through this, and then I'll worry about me.
Yeah.
And having people that cover you is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is for sure. Man, it's been a great episode.
Come on.
Hey, just thank you so much for all of you that tune in. Make sure, as we highlighted earlier, subscribe, click that bell. Make sure you share it with your grandma, your cousin, whoever else may take these leadership principles and apply them. We thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out this month's episode of the Selah Leaders Podcast. Darren and I are so grateful that you chose to spend some time with us today to check it out. But do us a favor, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, share it with a friend, family, or another leader in your life. It would truly make a huge difference.
Yeah, and if you'd like more information, jump over to selahleaders.com.